All right, so we're going to be talking about quadratic word problems, and all of these, guys, all of these are going to be in factored form. So I just want to make sure you guys know that we're still dealing with factored form. Now over here it says the power generated by an electrical circuit in watts as a function of its current x in amperes is modeled by this function. It says what current will produce the maximum power. Now, what I want you guys to understand is the power, guys, the power is right here. That's P of x. All right? It's saying, it didn't say what is the maximum power. It says what current. So what are we basically looking for? The current, like the x value, that will produce the maximum power. So what I want you guys to understand is what this graph would look like. Okay, this is negative, right? If it's negative, does it open up or does it open down? It opens down. So just make a little sketch. It doesn't have to be beautiful. Just make a sketch. It goes up and then it goes down right there. Okay, so if you would please just make that nice, neat little sketch. Could you please put this little dot right here? What's that dot? That's the vertex. Label it the vertex. All right, so here we have the vertex. Now everybody understands the vertex has an x value and a y value. Now the actual maximum power is your y value, but the current that will produce the maximum power is talking about our x value because we're looking for the current. Now by the way, remember this is in factored form. Could anybody tell me, like for example, where do you think my zeros are without using a graphing calculator or any type of graphing device? Could anybody tell me where they think my zeros are? One of them is totally 8. You're right. So one of them is at 8, 0. Nope. So right here, 8 is right. What number could I plug in right there? So my other 0 is actually 0. So I have put 0, 0, and 8, 0 on your paper. Like I said, we are not using any graphing device. We're just showing you guys how to do it by hand. Now, what perfectly always goes through the vertex? What do we call that? The axis of symmetry. So what would be the axis of symmetry that's perfectly between a 0 and an 8? You're right. It's at a 4. So I know my answer is going to be 4. All right? So right here, I'm just going to put right here, the amperes would be 4 and hit check. All right? Now, did we use any graphing calculator device? No. All right? So, if you want it, listen. I don't want you guys to understand. I don't want you guys to use this as a way to solve the problems, but if I put y equals 15x, parentheses x minus 8, and I zoom out far enough, you can see where is the vertex? At a 4. Now, what would if the question was what's the maximum power? The answer would not be 4. The answer would be 240. But can you guys see the two zeros located? So what I want you guys to do, by the way, some students understand I have to give them tests that basically take all their calculating devices away, and they'll be like, oh, because they'll want to take the shortcut. But for those of you who are wanting to figure it out on your own and how to do it, I want to show you guys some steps of how you can find it without a calculating device, because there are standardized tests that will take your calculators away because they want to test your ability to think. So right now, I'm going to do it one more time. We'll do a couple of these, and then that should be enough. 2 more. 2 more. All right? Yeah, there's a quiz, but the quiz is just everything else. All right? So check this out. I want you guys, you don't have to write everything, okay? The only thing I want you guys to write down in your journal is just this, okay? Just that. That's all I want you to write down. So we have our function, all right? And it's asking for the maximum height that the ball will reach. So what I want you guys to do in this scenario, just the first thing I want you to do is I want you to find the zeros. That's always going to be step number 1. Step number 1, find the dadgum zeros. Could anybody tell me one of the zeros? -1. Perfect. That's one of the zeros. And a 7. So guys, what I want you to do is how do we get this? We plug in a -1, we get a 0. We plug in a 7, we get a 0. Now, I want you, after you find the zeros, I want you to add them together and divide by 2. So what we're going to do is we are going to find the axis of symmetry. So find axis of symmetry. All right, so we're going to take -1 plus 7, and what are we going to do with it? We're going to divide that by 2. So we get 6 over what? 6 over 2. So what's our axis of symmetry? 3. Good, very good. So once you get the axis of symmetry, literally all you have to do is take this number and plug it back in. So here's what I want you to write here. Put take x equals 3 and plug it in. Now the last problem, the x value was the answer because it said like what was the x value to produce it. This time we just take it and we got to plug it in. So I want you to plug in the 3 right here, and I want you to take the 3 and plug it in right there. So I'm going to plug it in. Negative open parentheses 3 plus 1 parentheses 3 minus 7. So I have a negative sign. 3 plus 1 is 4. 3 minus 7 is -4. When I multiply all these together, I get a 16. So just remember, what do you do with your x value? You just take it and do what with it? Plug it in. And so my maximum height would be how many meters? 16 meters. They kicked that ball pretty dadgum high. All right? All right. So guys, this is the last one we're going to talk about. Now let's review. The first one, what did we find? We found the x value of the vertex. The second one, what did we find? We actually found the y value of the vertex. The third one that we're about to do, we're actually going to find what's called the y-intercept. So we have 3 different problems. You're either going to find the x value of the vertex, the y value of the vertex, or the y-intercept. So could you guys please, right here, write this down, and this would be the last problem that we do. Now it's going to be important that you don't have to write all the words, just write down the question and the function. I'm going to pause the video while my students give some time to write. All right, now you don't have to do this drawing. I'm just going to make a little drawing. It says Anna dives into a pool off of a springboard high dive. All right, so I just want you guys to imagine there being like a springboard high dive, and then she jumps off of it, right, and then goes into the pool of water. All right, so right now it just says what is the height of Anna above the water at the time of the diving. It's not talking about the maximum height. It's talking about like the y-intercept. So it's not talking about the maximum height. Now, by the way, if I were to make like a actual graph where we have like an x and a y axis, like this is your x-axis, this is your y-axis. She's on a diving board, like a high dive, and she's jumping off. What's the x value always going to be right here? 0, right? So we're going to have 0, comma, something. So literally all I want you to do right here is plug in a 0. That's all I want you to do. That will give you your y-intercept if your x value is 0. So it's going to be -5, open parentheses. What's 0 plus 1? Just a 1. What's 0 minus 3? -3. We multiply all those together and we get 15. So what was her height? All the way up here. That's a pretty big high dive right there, man. I don't want to hit the ground. I mean, or the water. Either one. That would hurt. Head first. Anybody ever dive head first into water from really high? Whew, man. After that, I'm like, I'm good. I'll just go feet first. All right. We weren't trying to find the maximum height. We were just trying to find the y-intercept. So I'm just going to type 15 so you guys know I'm not lying to you. There we go. All right. Okay, I'm not going to do this one. However, let's read it real quick. Ricardo throws a stone off of a bridge into a river. The stone's height, blah, 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 is this. It says how many seconds after being thrown will it reach its maximum height? What are we looking for here? Are we looking for the y-intercept? Are we looking for the axis of symmetry? Are we looking for the actual maximum? What do you think? We're actually looking for the axis of symmetry. Because, remember, in this problem, oh, actually, here's what I want you guys to do. Here's all you have to do. I'm not going to solve it for you, but all these problems are going to be something going up and then what? Something coming down, okay? So what I want you to understand, you're either looking for the x value, the y value, or right here, we'll call it the c value, which is the y-intercept. So you're either looking for the c value, the x value, or the y value. In this one, it says how many seconds, and because it's x is what? X is seconds, I know I'm looking for the x value of the vertex, but I'm not going to solve it because, oh, you know what? You guys go ahead and get started. I'll go ahead and solve it real quick. I lied. It's just too hard not to solve. So one of my zeros is -4, and one of my zeros is 8. And if I add them together and divide by 2, I get 4, all right? And I just divide that by 2, and I get 2, and that's my answer. Whew. Sorry, I couldn't help it. So you take your zeros, you add them together, and you divide by 2, and that's it. So I'm sorry, I couldn't resist.